Hello everyone, it is Ben from Ben by the Books, where we look at the good, the bad, the ugly, and should we even buy this book? If you like quick book reviews, then you have come to the right place. Today we're going to be looking at The Man from St. Petersburg by Ken Follett, and this was another one that I had recently read, and again, we're going to go over the good, the bad, the ugly, and should you even buy this book. If you want more of this content and like this type of stuff, then please consider subscribing, sharing, and liking the video. Let's get into this book right away. Let's get into it. So again, this is by Ken Follett, The Man from St. Petersburg. He is a very good writer. This is obviously one of his beginning novels. This book is actually a first edition copy of it, first edition hardcover copy that I got from a little library a while ago, of all places. So I was very interested in reading this book. This was on my list to read for a long time, and I was very excited to read it. I went into it with very high hopes, and let's just say I did not enjoy reading it at all. But I'm going to talk about the good things first, and then I'm going to talk about some of the other things that I think that were not so good about it. So the good things about it was Ken Follett is a good writer, so when you read anything by him, again, the syntax and the way that the words are on the page, it flows really nice, so it's pleasing to the eye to read. So that was one of the good things about it. The other good thing is a lot of the characters are not two-dimensional, they're not flat, so they're just really good characters to connect to, and you kind of relate to them in some way, depending on what you like. This is a historical fiction novel, so this is set before World War I. The main plot is about this guy named Felix, and he is some sort of spy. There's an anarchist somewhere. He and a couple other people are working together. So there's a young Winston Churchill is in this book. There's the Lord Walden, there's Felix, and there's a couple other characters. Essentially, the plot is they're trying to get Russia on the side of England and not on the side of Germany. This is before World War I. There's a lot of arms race. There's a lot of politics in it. So if you're not into historical fiction stuff, this is definitely not one for you, but I was loving it. I was loving the fact that this was a historical book. We don't really get very many books about World War I spy stuff. When we think of spy things, we think of World War II, Cold War era. This is World War I, so this was a little bit different. So that was one of the positives of this book, and also just the action is really good in this book, so that was also a great positive. There's a lot of good action sequences in it. I have to say that there was a lot more wrong with this book, at least that I felt. There's a lot more wrong with this than good. Yeah, the writing was good, but I feel like sometimes the plot and the politics of Europe get mixed up in there somewhere. It's very heavy, politics heavy, and if you're not into historical fiction or you're not into history, then you're obviously not going to get this book. This is just not something for you to read. Again, it was more for me because I like history and I like historical fiction stuff, so I was more interested in reading this book, but the politics stuff definitely drags it down. And even though the syntax stuff is really good to read, so all the wording on the pages is good to read, sometimes when I was reading this book, I felt like there would be periods of just dialogue and then nothing would happen, and then all of a sudden, there'd be a big action sequence. So, for example, they're talking, they're riding a stagecoach area, I think, and then all of a sudden, they just get jumped by these people, and then there's a big action sequence, and then it kind of cuts off. So there's that problem, I guess you could say. So it's good in terms of like what the premise of it is. I just feel like he didn't execute it as well as he wanted to. It gets very confusing. If you've ever seen Downton Abbey, this is definitely very Downton Abbey based or influenced. So there's the main characters are trying to get Russia on their side. There's also a girl that's involved, and she's involved with one of the main characters. She ends up being his daughter. He kind of loves her. There's a really weird love triangle relationship that's mired into the fact that this is like a political spy thriller story. So again, that's more of the bad side of this book. The ugly stuff is kind of along the same lines as the bad. The politics kind of weigh the stuff down. There's, there's the love triangle, which I don't really think works in this. There's the fact that the main characters kind of kill each other towards the end, and it just kind of ends. Like, there's a big, massive action sequence with a house that ends up being on fire, and everyone kind of dies. Or at least some of the people get out of the house fire, and then they get shot at the end, which again doesn't necessarily work. It kind of reminds me of a lot of the Stephen King novels, at least in the earlier Stephen King novels, where everything just kind of goes up in flames. That's kind of like what this was. And then it just kind of ends, and there's no real, how do I put this? There's no real ending to it. It just kind of ends, with Russia not even being on the side of England during World War I. So it just kind of builds up, and then just kind of stops. Should you get this book? Obviously, if you love history and you love European history, this is definitely something that's for you. If you like Downton Abbey, this is definitely something that's good for you. Again, there's a lot of filler stuff in this one that has a lot of, dialogue and dinner parties and things that would remind you of Bridgerton and Downton Abbey, that kind of route. There's a lot of socialites and connections and all these other types of fancy things. I think the idea was great, but I don't think it works in a pre-World War I Europe. I think this idea would work more in like a World War II setting or a post-World War II setting, Cold War era. I think that would work a little bit better than what this was. I do appreciate the idea. I like how he tried to do it, but this was just not for me. Again, I went into really high hopes with this one. I had never touched this one in a while. It was on my shelf, as you can see in the back, for a couple years, so I was really interested to get into it, but it just did not meet my expectations. I gave it a 2-star rating out of 5 on Goodreads. It's not that it's a bad book, it's just there's a lot of great ideas in this book that I don't think were executed in the correct way. So, should you get it, it's totally up to you. If you are into historical fiction, definitely get it. If you're not into historical fiction or anything that has to do with Europe or World War I or anything like that, then don't get it. But again, overall, Ken Follett is definitely a good writer. There's a few other things that are on my list that I want to read that are significantly better and more praised than what this is. So yeah, that was The Man from St. Petersburg, again, by Ken Follett. This is a first edition copy, first edition hardcover copy. And if you like more of this content, please feel free. Please consider subscribing, sharing, and liking the video. Share it wherever, share it far and wide. And I will see you all in the next video. Have a great day.